Good evening, Gabby.
Good evening, TC, and welcome all to our weekly podcast, Terry Currans, the Curran View, the Isle of Hillsborough. Mr. Terry Curran, how are you, sir? Are you okay? Steady away.
Yeah, steady away.
what kind of week have you had, and what game are you watching? EastEnders has been good this week, hasn't it?
I don't watch EastEnders. You know me better than that.
Oh,
I
don't
watch
you?
Coronation Street, Emmerdale Farm. I've got better things to do with my life than things like that.
It has been good though this week. To be fair, my missus has been watching it, so I've been a little bit intrigued. So I am a couple of minutes late. Magic moments. There's been lots of magic moments on EastEnders, but what have you sourced for us? Magic moments on the football pitch, T?
Well, I'm going for the goalkeeper, Gabby. Again, we don't see that many wonderful magic moments in games.
Yeah.
Whether it be goals or whether it be individual piece of skill. But I'm going for the volley of Amaron and Alisson's unbelievable save.
Yeah.
Which would have put the icing on the cake for Newcastle. But full credit to Liverpool for coming back and finishing winning the game. I know there were 3 mistakes in the game, but I don't know if you saw the save. It was an unbelievable save. Reaction, incredible.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Goals win games, and saves save games, and those moments in the game change the game. It was a game-changing moment. But going back to that, Newcastle 11 men, Liverpool 10 men. Van Dijk got sent off. I don't agree that should be a sending off, if I'm honest, because he made an attempt to get the ball. Yeah, okay, he denied him a goal scoring opportunity, but I think in modern law it is a sending off. But for me, it's never a sending off. That isn't. But that's a great flick by that fella there. I don't know who he is, number 4. I'm just watching PSV versus Rangers. It looks like it could be a decent game. This Malik Tillman, who used to play for Rangers, is now playing for PSV. So I'm watching that because I like the look of that boy. Whenever I've watched him.
Well, Chelsea's getting beat by Wimbledon.
Well, again, is it Chelsea's reserve team though getting beat by
I know,
Wimbledon?
but they still should be capable of beating the
100%.
You're looking at a Premier League club. I mean, it's not like it used to be.
No.
You're looking at a lot of top players at Chelsea. And for them to be, I mean, they don't want to be losing these matches, especially when they haven't won anything for a while.
Well, this is it, and we spoke about this situation many times on the podcast over the last few years, that teams making light of the League Cup, making 10...
Any trophy.
Yeah, absolutely. But
any trophy.
Yeah, but in particular this League Cup, and Tottenham made 9 changes. I mean, it's commonplace for teams to make 11 changes in the League Cup. I mean, they also do. You're absolutely spot on the League Cup, but it seems to be the prioritisation of football for the elite clubs now, and for other clubs is Champions League. No, not at all.
They're not even bothered about winning a cup.
No, they're not. And what's the point in putting your shirt on?
It's going to win the league.
Absolutely, 100%.
Unless they really concentrate on another Champions League. But I mean, they've got that much strength in depth anyway.
Yeah.
But when you look at Liverpool, Chelsea, Man United, Tottenham, who's the other one? How they look at not wanting to win a trophy is beyond belief. Because they can't win the league, so they can only finish in the top 3 or top 4.
Yeah.
Which is a Champions League place. Right, I get it. There's a lot of money involved, and it can help bring in better players.
Yeah.
But why would you not want to win the trophy?
I don't know. It's beyond me.
Why would you not want to have on your CV an Elite Cup winners medal or a FA Cup winners medal? I just find it. Well, the world has changed, hasn't it?
It's baffling.
The more I think about it,
it's baffling. I mean, you look at it in old money when there used to be one team in the European Cup. We used to have 4 teams was it in the UEFA Cup and 1 team in the Cup Winners' Cup, and that was the contingent of English clubs that was in Europe back in the day. Now, these days, their medal is finishing third or fourth and now fifth in the Premier League to get that place into the Champions League. In my
they won't get
opinion,
a
it's
medal
all
for it,
wrong.
but their honour of priority is to
Yeah, they
finish
get
in
it.
the top four.
Absolutely, it's a metaphoric medal, isn't it? That's what their goal is. Their goal is to finish in the top four, now the top five, so they can get in the Champions League and they forget
Is
the
it the
FA
top
Cup.
five now then?
I believe it's top five this year because it's extending next year, isn't it? So I think there's 5 English clubs that will be in the Champions League next year. I mean, eventually with the Club World Cup as well, and the Americans and the Saudi Arabians, and the landscape is changing. And I fully believe, and we've mentioned this many times on the podcast, that it will be a Super League, and it won't just be a European Super League. It'll be a World Super League. They'll get it all together, and the rich will get richer, and the others won't. And I think you're right. There's going to be a couple of leagues. There'll be a women's league, and then the rest of the football pyramid, as we know it won't exist in a generation's time.
I think I see that. I see where you're coming from that angle. I really do. But it all depends what happens with the next election in America. I think you're 100% right if the Democrats stay in power. Everything, the demographics of everything will change.
Yeah.
You know, I think I don't think I'm convinced Trump's going to give in. I don't think the women's football can't sustain it without the backing.
No, I mean the men's football has propped it up.
Somebody has to lose.
Absolutely, too.
One of them has to lose. And what I mean by one of them, I don't mean the Premier League or the women. I'm talking about the next 3 divisions. Championship, League 1, League 2. Can't sustain it.
No, they can't, but hopefully people and fans are wising up. There was on the bank holiday a big non-league day, and the attendances were quite fantastic. So many non-league teams taking great numbers away from home now. And the game is getting more expensive. I want to talk about that a little bit later in the podcast, the price of football. But my magic moments come as no surprise there. Jay Stansfield's goal for Birmingham City against Plymouth, and I spoke to my grandkids after that. Both of them went down, and little Bo said, "My dad threw me around like a rag doll, and I almost wet myself when Jay Stansfield scored." I did see Edward, who's one of the directors today. He's still there. I like Edward; he's a good lad. And I did say, pass on that message to Jay. He made my grandson wet himself when Birmingham scored, and that's what the game of football is all about. I thought Messi's pass and goal was quite phenomenal. And also Jared Bowen, tremendous pass, the way he took it, and he just stuck it in the onion bag against Brighton. I was very impressed with
They're set off,
with that lad.
West Ham. I mean, bright now, but West Ham have really, really set off well.
I mean, Antonio looked again $1 million. Perhaps he was carrying an injury last season. He didn't seem particularly happy. And I think that when you start off and you're not doing well and you're losing games, and their form in the league wasn't, well, it was awful, wasn't it? But
personally, looking at Everton, they've got that trophy, that first trophy, and they're wanting. Boys is looking as though now he's wanting to play on the front foot.
Absolutely.
And that's going to help your strikers. I mean, we've discussed this when Benitez, whoever's been at Newcastle, and they've always been renowned for the number 9s up at Newcastle.
Yeah.
And over the last few years, they haven't had a striker what was, nowhere near. It did 12 goals near mine, 25, 30 goals. So, boys, his team, West Ham, he's got them playing on the front foot.
And I think they got some really tremendous players as well in that West Ham, not just the team but the squad. So watch West Ham, and
looks well balanced.
Yeah, it does. I think again you're right. I mean, he's doing a great job, and long may it continue. I'm a big fan of Paqueta. Jared Bowen, I think he's going from strength to strength, and I always liked Ben Rama as well. I think he's a fine player. Again, I think they've just got some really, really good football players I like to watch.
I'll only speak on my own behalf because I don't want to criticise other people. But I'm the first to knock David Moyes and the way how his teams are played.
Absolutely, same I have,
But
yeah.
I do it with a constructive criticism, not for sake of criticising people. But I'm first to turn around and say, excuse me, excuse me. I'm first to turn around and say, they look a different team, and he looks a different manager. He looks as though he's got a smile on his face, and
absolutely.
He's not wanting his teams to win. He's thinking his teams are going to win now.
Yeah.
Now, when the players see that in itself helps the players because they're feeling more happy. The manager's happy.
Yeah. Absolutely, it looks like a happy place, West Ham at the moment.
Very much so.
And as you say, they're playing on the front foot. The players are going to be happy because they're actually trying to score goals. And as I say, long may it continue because it's always nice to see fresh and other teams around the top of the table. And good to see Villa off to, again, another winning way at Burnley last Sunday. Tremendous 3-1 away win for the
I had
Villa
them on
boys.
my coupon,
They've got a lot of pace too. Up again, a
Yeah.
lot of pace up front. Villa, he's really doing a great job. Unai Emery. And going back to the Liverpool game, well done to Darwin Núñez as well, scoring a brace. Tremendous strikes, both of them.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and that will give him a lot of confidence. But so with some players, you've got to give him that little bit of time to settle in. And maybe he's one of those what's needed that bit of time to settle in. But Liverpool have been hit and miss, haven't they? You know what I mean, themselves. So, like you say, great to see him get two great goals and help Liverpool get a win.
Absolutely. Book Corner in association with myfootballbooks.com, TC. Our most recent podcast, part 13 of our Football Book podcast, is out this week. Chris has been a little bit held up at work. One of his staff, I've got to tell you, one of his staff tried to cook an egg in a microwave and it didn't end well. Unbelievable.
I've seen somebody do that before. I've seen somebody do that.
Unbelievable, Jeff. I've seen the evidence, the photographic evidence, and it ain't
I've
good.
seen somebody cook an egg in a microwave.
And they didn't injure themselves.
It might have been on YouTube.
And they didn't injure themselves. They didn't injure themselves.
No. It shows you how to cook an egg. So whatever he's done, what's he done? Just put it on the plate itself. When I say a plate,
I have no idea what she done, but her arm is like, it just looks like a war wound, mate. It looks absolutely horrendous. So he's had to be working his backside off covering jobs. So as a consequence, it hasn't been produced yet, but it will be coming out shortly. First book that I'm going to give a shout out to, I gave it a shout out to last week as well. Give It to Moore, Who Will Score, the biography by Stuart Humphreys and Richard Harrison. I'm going to be doing a podcast with the great Ian Storey-Moore next week, and we're going to be focusing Game of My Life, and it was that iconic game that he played in 1967, April 67, when Nottingham Forest knocked out Everton in the FA Cup quarter-final, and we're going to look at the Cup run as a whole. It was one of the great cup runs of Nottingham Forest. Obviously, pre-Clough, Nottingham Forest in 67 season come second in the league to Manchester United and got knocked out of the FA Cup in the semi-final against Tottenham Hotspur. So it was their greatest season at that time. So we're going to be really...
67 season then?
Yeah, 66-67, yeah.
Yeah, Chelsea-Tottenham final, weren't it?
Yes, it was. That was a final that nearly never happened. There was if you want to listen to the story, go on to My Life, My Music, and Alan Hudson tells a fantastic story about how he nearly made his debut with his brother in the 1967 FA Cup final against Tottenham. Classic Alan Hudson. And if you go on to our Patreon site, guys, all the w's.patreon.com/SRBmedia, you will get all of those podcasts. And second up, The Three Kings is the book that Andy has recommended this week. And on this day, the 2nd of September 1913, the great Bill Shankly was born. The book is also a DVD video by Johnny Owen. Johnny Owen done the video, the documentary, and Leo has written the book. So there's a book and video, and it's about the makers of the modern game, Busby, Shankly, Jockstein, the Three Kings, by Johnny Owen, and the book by Leo Monaghan.
I bet that's an interesting book, though.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's a great book, and it's a great DVD as well. Tremendous insight to three great men of football, Jockstein, Bill Shankly, and Sir Matt Busby. And again, when I say an insight, I mean a great insight. There's lots of nuggets that I previously didn't know, and they were all miners as well. So they all went underground, and I suppose Jock was the only one really that didn't come south and really cut it in the English First Division. Matt Busby certainly did, and Bill Shankly transformed Liverpool. But the Lisbon Lions, Jockstein was the first manager to bring
First
the
British
European
manager,
Cup, back to these shores of Great Britain with the great Lisbon Lions, Celtic.
yeah, brilliant, great achievement, and what a great team he built there, Jockstein.
They were a
I used to love watching little Jimmy Johnson, me.
I mean, was it? When people talk about world-class players and the greatest of all time, Little Jinky's always one that's forgotten.
Got to
But
be in there, hasn't he?
what a player! I mean, he was just phenomenal, and probably the only world-class player that ever went missing on a rowing boat. I mean, that was a great story in itself.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. The great Jimmy Johnson, the great Celtic, and all of them Celtic players were Glaswegians, bar Bobby Lennox, who was an Ayrshire lad, and most of those were born within a radius of Parkhead, as the Celtic faithful call paradise. So, wonderful book, The Three Kings. Story of Busby, Shankly, and Stein, and we'll be going out tonight with Alan Hudson's story about the great Jockstein, an absolute classic. And thirdly, one that I've picked out, Rock and Roll Soccer by Ian Plenderleith, and it tells the story, the short life and fast times of the North American Soccer League, one of the great leagues of the 70s, and it was on the 28th of this month, August 1977, that Seattle Sounders played against the New York Cosmos in Soccer Bowl 1977. And Adrian Webster, who captained the Seattle Sounders that day, has written a book, Soccer Bowl 77. It's all about the run-up, all about the final, all about the movers and shakers and the players. And a great little read by Adrian Webster. And you can listen to a Legends of the 70s podcast with Adrian on our Patreon sites, or just go on to your usual places where you listen to the podcasts, Spotify, Acast, etc., and listen to Adrian talk about those wonderful halcyon days of the NASL. But Ian Plenderleith has put it in his book, Rock and Roll Soccer, The Short Life and Fast Times of the North American Soccer League. And there's a picture of Pele there with the ball in his left hand, waving to the crowd, and a massive smile. And there was a smile on Pele's face that day because it was his last competitive game in America, and they did win the Soccer Bowl in 1970.
Yeah, no, listen, well, now you're talking about American soccer. Did you see, I'm sure I've read something where since Messi's gone to that Miami.
Yep, into Miami.
200 into Miami. They've made £280 million.
Yep. I'm just going to talk about it here because it is one of the talking points that I did want to mention this week. Messi's generation.
So that tells you that, or tells people that we don't discuss these things before. And if you were to talk about that,
no, absolutely, we don't.
Because you mentioned that.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I thought, It's incredible. He's only been there 2 minutes. They've spent 280 odd million quid.
Absolutely. I looked at it the other day and I posted it onto the Curran View.
That's what I've seen it.
Yeah, it got Messi's generated $265 million in ticket sales since joining the Major League.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they've
I
had
thought I'd read the bloody thing.
yeah
I can't
300,000.
post notes on groups because what it says, posting something like sexy up, and I'm thinking I'm not posting notes sexy up on a. I don't even post oh really rude on my wall. So I've got a 29-day or is it 39-day ban or something? I don't know.
Well, I've just posted that video of what's his name, Rubiella's, because they had that kiss. We did talk about it briefly last week, the Spanish president, to that, and I don't even know what her name is. I'm not really that interested. I think they're making a mountain out of a molehill. But there's a video that's going around. It's from the Daily Mail online, Sport Online, and I've posted it to the Current View. It's the Spanish ladies, which looks as though it's a Spanish lady. Well, it is the Spanish ladies team after that World Cup final. She, the player, has got the phone of her and the president with a kiss. She's laughing her ass off. All the other players are shouting "Beto, Beto, Beto," which means apparently kiss in Spanish. And it doesn't look to me as though that kid is absolutely distraught after what went on with Rubiales, I think his name is. It doesn't look as though she's a broken lady. It doesn't look as though any of them Spanish players are broken. It doesn't look like any sexual, whatever they're putting a sexual crime. It looks as though it's an absolute stitch up.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah,
And
I think you're right there. And have you? I mean, I was looking. There's been little clips on Notting Hill Carnival, and
okay.
you've seen some of these things. What's going off down there?
Yeah.
And they're making this guy out to be the really bad guy. Now, I haven't seen enough of it, but
same here.
I did see him kiss her.
Yep.
But she didn't pull her head back of anything like that, of anything.
And at the time, I've seen
That's
pictures.
what I'm about at the time.
Yeah, at the kiss, at the time, she was laughing, and she was laughing on either a coach or a train or a plane. Couldn't work out what they were on, but she was looking. She got the screenshot of the kiss, and she was laughing, just like she was laughing when he actually kissed her. So, that doesn't look as though it's sexual misconduct case to me. It looks as though it's a witch hunt. I don't like what's going on. We always say on the current
Cancel
view.
culture.
Yeah, absolutely. We follow.
We've got to start to turn this around.
Absolutely, and this is what I like to mention these things on the current view.
I know there's the saying, two rights don't make a wrong.
No, absolutely.
But what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
And we want the truth.
Once they start to get cancelled, these woke people.
Yeah.
I wonder what's going to happen then. I wonder how they will feel.
Absolutely, T. So on the current view, we follow the story, not a story, as you always say. And I just want to give a shout out to some of our patrons and some of our contributors to the group. So Tim Caslin, David Hathaway, Ross Hadley, John Brinley, Gene Phillips, Richard Mee, Tarina Savage, Stephen Finchett, Mark Cooper, Paul Waits, and Andy Satchwell. So thank you all for your contributions, your time, and your support.
Much appreciated.
Absolutely, and we're going to
anytime they want to ask us any questions or want us to talk about anything in football, just put the messages through to you, and we'll go through them all.
Absolutely, I'll private message a few of the guys, and we will do a feature Ask TC. So guys, don't ask TC on the current view, but if you've got a question for Terry, link up with us. Give us the question and we will discuss your question on the current view, and we'll give you a mention as well. Loans T, transfer windows closing Friday. It's the 1st of September. I don't know where these 8 months have gone, but they have gone. The window is closing. What do you make of the loans? Because I can't get my head around the fact that these multi-million-pound companies are loaning players out to the same to clubs in the same league. I just don't think it's right.
I know you don't
No,
like it,
I
but
don't get it.
I look at it from a player's point of view.
Yeah.
If he's not getting a game, the loans have always been good especially for younger players.
Yeah.
To get them that bit of experience in things. So, but I see where you're coming from. But football's getting more difficult for players.
Yes.
Especially young players coming through football clubs to break into teams.
Yeah, I mean, with these...
They'll only get into teams now. A lot of them, well, 3/4 of them now, unless you get an exceptional kid, will get in. But 9 times out of 10 now, they've got to get a loan, hope they do well, and then they get bought to get established. Because if you stay there, you don't make any money practically.
Yeah.
Well, you do now in this day and age of football. But if you're loyal to the club, 9 times out of 10, especially in my day, to earn money, you would have to get a move.
But a lot of these,
and you got a proper wage. You got a proper wage rise.
Absolutely, but a lot of these bigger clubs, the elite clubs, and this is where I'm going. This is why I don't like it. Are buying all these players, and then they buy the players, and then they loan the player out. Whereas in old money, they wouldn't be able to do that, or they didn't do that, and players would go and play for, say, for instance, Nottingham Forest or Everton or Aston Villa or Birmingham City or Sheffield Wednesday. Some of the more, I wouldn't say more intelligent players, but they'd go and play for, say, a Colchester or you'd see them come through the ranks at the lower clubs, earn their stripes, play the football, rather than going straight at the top end and then sit on the bench and do nothing.
What I don't like about transfers in today is that these teams, like your Manchester Cities and the Chelseas, Man Uniteds, they buy and buy and buy.
Well, this is what I'm saying. Then they loan them out.
Whereas, as year gone by, you would get. I was going to say then. Dennis just sent me a message. That's what put me off. What you get, you'd have 6 or 7, 8 players at a top team.
Yeah.
Then in the middle of the tables, you would have about 4 or 5. Just a bit lower than that, you'd have 3 2s.
Yeah.
And at bottom, you'd have at least 1 star player in your team.
Yeah.
But even all that seems to deteriorated.
Absolutely.
That's what I don't like about it. And then you don't get the fall away from when they go into the 30s. I know they've got a lot of money, but you would still think they'd want to play football. But they have that much money now; they can retire early. Well, I'm not saying retire early, but once they're finished, they retire and move on to pastures new, don't they?
Absolutely. But again,
whether it's being coached, they set up their own businesses.
Yeah, again, incredible that the amount of I mean, Manchester United, they're talking about having Cucurella on loan from Chelsea. Chelsea spent £60 million. They know what this player's like. They've watched him play at Brentford. They keep telling us about all this data, all this analysis, all these words that they use, these clever words, so they know everything. They know how many times this player goes to the toilet. Yet they're having the player on loan. We're not sure about the player. You either buy a player or you don't.
Want to play him on loan? Why would Manchester City want to play him on loan?
Well, it's Manchester United, isn't it? They're going to loan him, because of Luke. No, Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw's injured, so they want to buy this player in on loan. But for me, you either buy a player or you don't buy a player. You shouldn't be able to use the loan situation and bring in a player on loan if you have got lashings of amounts of money. I mean, Chelsea have got that much money.
But why would Chelsea want to do that? Because they're going to be fighting for the top 4.
Well, again,
they're loaning it off to Manchester United.
Well, again, that's another thing. But with a player that they do want to get rid of, they'll probably loan him with an option to buy, because they clearly look at him and think, well, we bought a pig in a poker here, and we want to get rid of him, and it's a way of getting these players off the wage bill. I mean, because Chelsea clearly are struggling because they've stopped the £10 subsidiary for the way travel for disabled and some of their most loyal supporters that go away from Stamford Bridge and watch Chelsea Football Club. So when you look at the game of football, it just beggars belief at times what is allowed these days. And then they come all these cobblers with the financial fair play. It doesn't mean a thing because they get round it no matter what way you want to wrap it up.
Exactly.
The big clubs will still get... So get rid of
Exactly.
it, because all it's hindering is the smaller clubs. If a guy that comes in and owns the smaller club, they actually can't compete with the bigger club because they can't spend the amount of money that's needed to get up to there in the first place.
And to listen to the rest of this podcast, head on over to www.patreon.com/SRBmedia. Thank you.